Now we have to make sure we can pay for our groceries? Songtrust removes the complexity of the publishing landscape and offers detailed access to data otherwise not directly available, helping songwriters, artists, producers, managers, publishers, labels, lawyers, distributors, and more simplify music rights management and the administration of music publishing assets, performing rights, and digital licensing. Songtrust provides solutions for corporate clients including CD Baby, Downtown Music Publishing, The Orchid, Symphonic, and Sub Pop Publishing. You want to be sure and visit songtrust.com/pubcast to take advantage of their 20% off the one-time registration just for listening to the A&amp Nashville Pubcast. And now let's get on with our episode.
Hey friends, it's Tim Hunzy, your host of the A&amp Nashville Pubcast. And as we wrap up this season, we love to include some of our favorite clips. And today's mashup has my favorite topic, technology. And in this first clip, we have Anna Bond with Songtrust, who happen to be our sponsors for these wonderful podcasts.
So now we're going to look into the future. Do you see any upcoming trends or changes in the near future that interest you?
This is a interesting question. It's a tough one. So something that I think people talk about a lot is, the development of machine learning and kind of algorithm-based music creation. And I think people get very nervous about it because they think the robots are replacing us. People thought that about samplers, about 808s, I think it will be interesting. I am concerned about, your mood playlists, your kind of, your instrumental bands who are on the Spotify Deep Focus playlist of the world, being replaced by kind of their algorithm, not equivalent, but kind of analog. But I think in terms of actual, music listening that people are actively engaging in, I don't think it's going to be a big problem. I think it will create a lot of interesting problems of volume, of tracking. I think, the potential for, AI song delivery of 100,000 songs a day could really tax the way the publishing world works. So that'll be something interesting to keep your eye on. But I think in terms of, respecting human creativity, I'm not worried about it, but I am interested in how the systems will manage it if people really get engaged with it.
I agree. I think that's an interesting perspective. I am a drummer, and I remember when drum machines first started becoming a thing, I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to replace drummers. Drummers are better. They never replaced us, so we're still here. No. So yeah, it's a good analogy to keep in mind is people
You got to have the most responsible member of the band.
Well, I like to tell everybody you have to follow me. So, hey.
Exactly.
I was not the lead singer. I had to haul all that stuff in for a reason. Always my internal joke. No one ever appreciated it. We drummers were the butt of most, or bass players. I don't know if they were bass players, but I don't know why. I was going to say bass players. The whole rhythm section, man. We're the ones that lay down the groove.
They were jealous.
Yeah, always. But is there anything else you see that could be changing in the future?
I mean, it's something that's really interesting. You see companies like Splice and BeatStars and TrackLib that are making samples and beats and kind of building blocks of songs more available, more widely. You don't necessarily have to just be like a crate digger to find interesting samples anymore. I think that will continue, and I think that will only kind of continue to be interesting. But in terms of what's the next TikTok, I cannot tell you. I'm sitting in front of a record player right now. We have two in my home. We're a little old-fashioned in terms of our consumption styles.
I like it. Yeah, I have just recently entered the world of TikTok, and I'm not sure what I think of it. It's just throwing me, but it's work. I try to keep up with the trends, and that one, I don't know, man, but my kids love it. So
yeah, that's the thing. Kids love it.
Yep.
And in this clip, we have a man who's seen everything from acetate to digital streaming, my friend Lionel Conway.
That kind of leads into one of my other questions. You have seen so much technological change, so much. You just mentioned, which I'm aware of, but I imagine most of my listeners don't even know what an acetate is. So I actually did. But from acetates to tape to digital to CD, I mean, we've seen so much. Do you see?
How about the eight? What about the 8-track
Oh, yeah, I try to forget about those. Those were not my favorite.
And the cassettes? I've been through them all. I've been through every single phase of the music industry. From you forgot the biggest earner when I started in the music business was sheet music.
Oh my goodness!
Sheet music was 75% of our income because we could sell 1 million copies of a piece of sheet music.
Wow. So, all right, walk me through this then. You have seen, because you mentioned again, like when you first started out, which is funny, you said it was radio driven. We're back to that now. We're streaming driven. It's not always radio, but we're still, the bulk of my money comes from performance. So you're saying performance mattered then, sales didn't. We're kind of back there now, right? So it's interesting to see this transition, but out of the technology stuff, which one of those was your favorite medium? Was there one that you go that sounded best? Or, I mean, I know you're a guy that's probably not the biggest audiophile, but you're like me. You like to hear amazing music. You like to hear it on a good system, and it moved you. Do you feel that?
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's the 12-inch album, the 12-inch record. Is it 12-inch? The one that had all the information about the record, where it was made, who was on it, that would have a little booklet inside. I think the CD was probably one of the worst. Streaming is fine because it's on demand. You can hear your song at any time. So that's great now. I mean, but as far as the sound of it, it's all very compressed. But I think the CD was terrific because the long playing record, where you could, line up in a store to get your, because everyone wanted to buy it on the same day, and then you would invite your friends over and listen. Then you all read the album notes. Oh, look who's playing piano on this track, and look it was great for the music buyer, for the music fan. I think that was the best era. Yeah,
I know that. If you're marketing to millennials and the younger generation now, they say they're into experiences, but one of the experiences they don't have is exactly what you just said. The experience of going to a record store and having to be in the record store to actually hear the music, and you would stand in line, and like you said, you'd geek out with your friends, and then you'd all go back and sit and listen to it because that's the only way you could do it. You couldn't just dial up something, and it was just transformational, and it was a relationship you built over music, which is crazy. And I kind of wish that would come back. I don't know if the experience, you even had to do the same for concert tickets. I remember standing in line talking to everybody. You going to the concert? Yeah. And you had to stand in line for hours to buy popular concert tickets.
Well, Tim, that business has come back. It's a very healthy live business now. Very healthy. So I don't think that did go away for a while, but it's certainly come back. And vinyl business has come back as well because of we missed that moment of finding something that you really love and taking it home. The vinyl business it's not, obviously hasn't replaced the CD, but it's certainly healthy.
Yeah, I agree, and definitely the live business. I just think that they missed the experience of standing in line for tickets. Because now you just dial it up online and you got to pre-order everything. I like the experience of having to get in your car, drive, stand in line, buy your ticket. It was fun, actually. I probably groaned about it back then. But, being relational. I like people, Lionel. I'm like you. I love people.
And in this clip, we sit with Derek Wells, session guitar player and producer, who explains to us how the experience of the listener is going to be changing.
As you've kind of mentioned and we've discussed a little bit, our industry continues to change with technology options, and man, it's just been nuts. Like since I've been in here for the last, 15, really the last 10 years have been crazy fast. Do you see any new technology or any advancements that get you excited?
Well, we talked about it. The rolling out of really high res audio on major platforms is really exciting to me. Tidal's been doing it for a while on the subscription thing, and Amazon's rolling it out now. That's exciting. Just as an audio geek, I love the idea that we're getting more higher quality product to people. And then on the same thing, man, I'm just really excited. You know, I've always been a liner note geek my whole life. And I think this fits into the categories, man. We're starting to see the credits really develop in a larger way on the DSPs. And I just could not be a bigger fan of that. And you know, specifically, Spotify's doing really great. Tidal's doing really great with the credit. You can click on the song to see who played. And Apple's doing some really cool stuff with actually creating own playlists, kind of the behind the scenes, the creators. They've got playlists called On the Boards or Behind the Boards for producers. I've got ones called On the Session for, you know, so for a guy like, you know, me, you know, I have a playlist on Apple. You can search Derek Wells and you can see all the stuff that I've played on or produced. And they're starting to do, you know, get more in depth with the credits. And I think to zoom out, I think what better way to invest in the worth of music than to allow people to invest in the creators of that music. And so you want someone to pay more than 99 cents for something? How about getting them a little bit more knowledge about who created it and why, and let them invest in those people and become fans of more than just the app or the service or even just the song on a base level? How about letting them become fans of the writers of that song? How about letting them become fans of the producer, the engineer, all that kind of stuff? So that kind of stuff is really exciting to me.
I'm with you. I still, from a very young age to now, which I have had years of frustration, love to know, well, where did they record this? And who did it? And who's the players? And reading the stories of all that stuff. And yes, I'm with you. Like, I click regularly on their credits, song credits, so I can
all
see
the time. Well, I mean, I remember as a kid reading, you know, some of the Nashville Cats, you know, reading liner notes and just, you know, the internet was archaic at that time, but just thinking like, man, I wonder what this guy looks like. Like, you know, just, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, I wonder what guitar he played. And so now to have that kind of stuff come back in the liner notes way, and then to be able to do the deep dive, like, oh, not only can I see who played drums on this, but I can go see a bunch of other stuff he played on at the click of a button. And then I can go a step further and learn about that person as a human. Yep. I can see what kind of drums they play. I mean, I would have killed for that stuff when I was a kid.
I follow so many artists now on players on my Instagram just to watch what they do.
That's right.
And then usually get pissed off because I'm not that good.
Well, same.
We saved our final clip for tech guru Shawn Wilson.
So, Shawn, being that you're unique guest for me and having more of a tech background, we're going to kind of peer into my crystal ball and look into the future, but I'm sure this is going to tag on to another question I like to ask everybody about trends in tech. So yours is probably going to be a combined answer here. I'm having a guess to see what other transitions, or as you mentioned, like being a data guy, data has become the king of what we're doing. Do you see any other transitions or changes coming along that are going to maybe apply to the music industry?
Well, let me maybe be a little on the annoying side and tell you one I don't think is going to apply to the music industry in the near term. It will in the long term, and that is blockchain technology. So, you know, blockchain and crypto and the value and the impact that it's going to have on the world is too hard for people to measure. It'd be like being back in 1995 and somehow being able to surmise the value that the internet is going to have. Even if you somehow accidentally came up with what it is today, it would purely be that. It would be an accident. So I don't think long-term people really truly understand. Even the people that really intrinsically understand this stuff, they just don't know and can't possibly fathom the impact that it's going to have. But I can tell you, as someone who sits on the board of a venture capital fund and gets pitched fairly regularly, there's way too much stuff in the music space that is correlated to blockchain technology. And in a lot of cases, they're very elegant solutions to problems that don't really exist. And so I see a lot of that in the tech space, overly complicated things. And this is why even you said at the beginning, I can't believe I didn't think of this thing that Muzooka does. And yeah, it's really simple, but executing simple is actually quite hard. What I see a lot in tech and music are people wanting to use very, very complex systems to solve problems that really aren't major issues today, or ones that just need a much better thought process. So that's something I see a lot in music in general. And then as far as just a general take on what's happening, in the sort of general tech space and sort of what the future holds, I don't think automation is going to be quite as disruptive as some people do, including a fellow that was, running for the Democratic nomination. I don't think universal basic income is going to be something that is going to be needed. Since the invention of electricity and the automobiles, there have been all kinds of disruption where jobs basically disappear, but they don't disappear permanently, because at the end of the day, there's no finite amount of jobs. There'll just be new jobs that'll be created, and so I'm not very bullish on the fact that that's actually going to be something that we'll even see in the next 5 to 6 years. Yes, there are Amazon factories that have a bunch of robots, but do we really want people moving stuff around a factory? They could be doing something much more meaningful and impactful in their lives. And so I just feel like those transitions, much like it happened when electricity was invented and Ford streamlined the assembly of vehicles, there were all kinds of jobs that were disrupted, but ultimately those jobs disappear and new ones basically come into replace. So it's a somewhat unpopular stance, but as a generalization of how technology is going to impact, I just don't see that being anything that we have to worry about. We can't create real intelligence. We can barely even recreate a human cell, never mind trying to create a human brain and have something that is truly autonomous and sort of doing its own thing. So I'm not as worried about it as a lot of people are.
That's good, kind of my Shawn, because I'll be honest, man, I'm one of those that's afraid the machines were going to take over. I'm not even going to lie. I've got this paranoid nightmare where the machines are taking over, Shawn. You're giving me comfort, brother.
There you go.
Yeah, the AI is taking over. I can go down rabbit holes with that. But in all honesty, I believe you as well that it just transitions positions and opens up other opportunities. But yeah, it is interesting. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see that roll out in the next 5 years as AI gets better. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the A&amp Nashville Pubcast. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform and follow us at A&amp Nashville to keep up with news, events, panels, and even new episodes. The A&amp Nashville Pubcast is created by executive producers Dale Bobo and Tim Hunzy, producer Brandon Harrington, mixing and editing by Casey Porter. Thanks for listening and supporting the A&amp Nashville Pubcast.